Mr. Johnson, you're also excuse me, read that for David as well. No objection, without objection, so ordered. And Mr. Johnson, you're recognized for your opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate you yielding me time and for hosting this important hearing on the administration's war on coal. I'd also like to thank our witnesses for taking the time to come and testify before us today on this important issue. You know, since taking office, this president and his administration has led an all-out fight against the coal industry. And the fight has been a two-front war, one on the production side of coal and one on the market side of the coal industry. On the production side, we've seen the EPA slow walk permitting for coal mines, and in one egregious case, they even retroactively vetoed a permit that had been approved by the Army Corps of Engineers. But the EPA isn't the only department in the administration attacking the ability of coal companies to mine our natural resources. The Department of the Interior has been trying to rewrite the 2008 stream buffer zone rule since late January of 2009, just mere days after this president took office. By some estimates, this proposed rewrite of the stream buffer zone rule could cost tens of thousands of direct and indirect jobs and cause the price of electricity to skyrocket. And now, since I took office in 2011, I've been fighting tooth and nail to stop the administration from going forward with this new rule, and I have introduced legislation to do exactly that. On the market side of the equation, the EPA has aggressively placed standards on coal-fired power plants that are unrealistic and uneconomical for utility companies to meet. Power plants throughout the Midwest are left with the impossible decision of shutting down or spending billions of dollars raised through rate hikes on consumers to meet the new standards. Down near my home of Marietta, Ohio, a large power plant will close in the coming months because of these new standards. Over 150 Ohioans will lose their jobs, and families and small businesses will be left with higher utility rates. And as a candidate, as the chairman pointed out, the president told us what his policies toward coal and coal-fired power generation would do when he infamously said that if a company wants to build a coal-fired power plant, they can, but it will bankrupt them. And this president doesn't seem to understand that for states like Ohio, which receives over 80% of its power from coal plants, the people who are hit hardest are the seniors on fixed income, hardworking families, and the small businesses that are the job engines of our economy. In fact, the average American family has seen a $300 per year increase in their utility bills since this president took office, and that is a direct impact of his crippling coal policies. Now, you can guarantee that this number will only go up for Ohioans if the president's war on coal is not stopped and is not stopped soon. I'd like to thank you again, Mr. Chairman, for hosting this important hearing and shedding light on this administration's economically destructive coal policies, and I look forward to hearing the important testimony from our witnesses. And with that, I yield back the balance of my time.
I thank the gentleman. Now yield to the gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Kelly, for his opening statement.
I thank you, Chairman, for holding this hearing. You know, I'm not too far from here over in Pennsylvania, and there's a lot of my friends that are in the coal business. And most of the time, when I get a chance to talk to people, you know, I talk about a country that's been so blessed with natural resources. You know, coal is abundant, it's accessible, it's affordable. And it's been the backbone of our nation's electric power for so long. Pennsylvania, about half of the electricity we have in Pennsylvania comes from coal. And I hear people talk about coal, they talk about coal in a way that I don't particularly care for. And I know this administration does have a war on coal. Do not be fooled by the small talk and the chit-chat about they don't. I'm telling you, there is a war on coal. There is a war on fossil fuels. Now, this administration, through the EPA, has made it very difficult for my friends that are in the coal business and making it more difficult for Americans who rely on touching that switch and flipping it on and having their lights come on. Able to cool their houses in the summer, able to light lights and do an awful lot of things and run their industry. So when you hear this going on day after day, week after week, month after month, it's time to stop chit-chatting and tap dancing around the issues. Now listen, all of us want clean air, all of us want clean water. But you know what we also want? We want our economic freedom. Why in the world would we put this country at risk with the abundance of natural resources we have, the abundance of coal we have, 200 years supply, right here, beneath our feet. Other places around the world would love to have what we have. They look at us and they scratch their head and say, what is it with you folks? Why would you put yourselves behind the 8 ball? Why would you put yourselves in a position where you can't power yourselves? Now, I'm glad we're having this hearing today, and I'm glad the public's here, and I hope that America is paying attention. There are very clear decisions of the way this country is being run. And for those of you who aren't watching it closely, please, wake up and smell the coffee. We are at dire risk of losing the greatest country in the world because of an onerous government that keeps its boot on the throat of our job creators, that keeps its boot on coal and does not want coal as part of our energy production. Make no mistake about it. That's what they're trying to do. So the fact that we're here today, we're able to talk to different witnesses and talk to people who do produce this power and produce this product that allows America to rise to the top, I sure welcome that chance. And we also have our friends from the EPA here. I've got to tell you, gentlemen, at some point, somebody better take a look at what's happening in America. We cannot legislate and regulate and make it impossible for America to continue its great success if we keep up with these policies. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to yield back, and thank you so much for having this hearing.
I thank the gentleman for his comments. The gentleman reminded me that the world's better and safer when America leads. And the simple fact is you cannot lead militarily, you cannot lead diplomatically if you first don't lead economically, and you cannot lead economically if you don't have energy. And the gentleman's comments about affordable, abundant, and accessible coal is critical to being able to lead in that energy area, and therefore to be able to lead economically, and therefore to make the world a better place. And so that's really what's at stake here, and I appreciate the gentleman's comments from Pennsylvania. They were right on target. But now you look to the gentleman from West Virginia for his opening statement.
Thank you, Chairman Jordan. Thank you for holding us here today to expose this war on coal being waged by the EPA and the President Obama's administration. The coal is mined here in eastern Ohio and throughout West Virginia powers America and provides good-paying jobs for thousands of families and revenue for numerous state and local governments. But the coal industry and the coal-fired electric generating plants are under siege, and their future is indeed in jeopardy. Under the pretext of global warming, his political support from radical environmental extremists, and his passion for renewable energy models, President Obama is relentlessly pursuing a dangerous gamble of diminishing the contribution of coal in our country's energy portfolio. The President himself has said, as you've heard from other speakers, that he may not be able to prevent coal-fired utilities from being constructed, but the taxes and regulations that he'll impose will bankrupt those that try. Or how about Secretary of Energy, Secretary Chu, who has said coal is his worst nightmare. The leading speaker for energy in America has said coal is his worst nightmare. Or Vice President Biden, who has said that the President administration is not supporting clean coal technology. Or what about Senator Reid, who announced that coal makes me sick, it's ruining our country. But wait, what about the assault from the EPA? The coal industry and the electric generating plants have had to deal with issues like delayed water permitting, unreasonable water conductivity expectations, a mercury emission standard that's crippling the current plants, a threat of treating coal ash as a hazardous material, regulating minute particulate matters designated with virtually no health benefit, but costing the consumers billions of dollars, proposing new source performance standards when there is no technology available to perform that standard, cooling water temperature, cross-state air pollution standard, intimidation of state and local environmental agencies by the powerful EPA, potential roadblocks preventing companies from exporting coal and even natural gas and oil, and then coupled with a 41% reduction in the R&D of spending at the Department of Energy's money for clean coal technology. That's backed on the fact that last year they had a 39% reduction in the R&D for clean coal technology. This form of industrial harassment has already caused utilities across America to initiate plans reluctantly to begin the closure of approximately 125 power generating plants across America out of the 700. That's a result of almost 25% less power is going to go into the grid because of this war on coal. But keep in mind, the EPA's own economic model only predicted a 2% reduction. How wrong they have been. The integrity of the grid, the ability of consumers and manufacturers to have access to low-cost electricity could very well be put to the test in the coming years unless